Oof.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of our beautiful Twitch chat members. I am Warshack. I am joined by only the highest quality gamers found in the Hearthstone region. D-Money, right over there, looking sharp as always, mage extraordinaire. DracoCatt, brother of Illidan, homie of the Demon Hunters. And today, only today, we have a special guest, the bestest of guests, TheSuperiorDavid, the best David you're going to be able to find here, folks. And he's with us this afternoon. Hello, TheSuperiorDavid. Thank you for being our guest. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into Hearthstone? What's your highest rank? What's the best deck to play?
Oh, man. Warshack, take me out to dinner first before you ask these questions. Let's see. I got into Hearthstone because I was over at a buddy's house on vacation from school. He gave me his iPad. It was like, yo, play this game. And it was Hearthstone. Immediately got super engrossed, totally ignored him. This was around Black Rock Mountain, and I just instantly fell in love with the game. And here we are now. And then let's see, highest rank was rank 5. I hit day 1 legend under the old system. It was an incredible grind that I'm happy I don't ever have to do again.
Very impressive.
What were the other questions? Is that it? Did I nail it?
Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Awesome. Stop the landing. There we go.
Actually, I'm trying to implement a new segment whenever we have a guest where I want to do like a rapid Q&A. Sometimes it's Hearthstone related, sometimes it's not. Are you ready are you up to the task?
I was born ready for this task.
All right. Oh my God. Whew. All right. Well, I just wrote down these questions so far in advance. It was like 5 minutes ago, and I'm just gonna let them rip. Okay. I want you have like 5 seconds to answer. 5 seconds max. Okay. You gotta give me like first answer that comes to your head. You're saying it. All right. Maybe this will wake Draco up because he's sleeping. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, no, I'm here. I'm listening, man.
You're good. You're good. Okay. Here we go. Current favorite Hearthstone class?
Demon Hunter.
Okay. There you go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
How many siblings do you have?
1 sister, but then I have like 4 step siblings.
Favorite color?
Purple.
Popcorn or candy?
Ooh. Oh, that's like popcorn or like all of candy. That's like
I'm saying like when you go to a movie. When you go to a movie, are you getting popcorn or candy?
Popcorn. I worked at a movie theater growing up. I love me some popcorn with real butter.
Me too,
too long of an answer.
I worked at a movie theater too. It was like a great job to have as a kid.
Oh yeah, dude. Free popcorn. I bring home garbage bags of popcorn, and I'll like bring it to school the next day. And it would the way the popcorn would like morph around the bag. It's actually probably not safe for work. Actually, not going to say that, but
concessions was the worst part about working in a movie theater. The best thing about working in a movie theater was there was this job where you had a lightsaber. I know it sounds really cool, and they have these like safety codes where you have to walk into movie theaters like a multitude of times every other hour. And people will come into the movie theaters to like rate your movie theater to see if it's following all the fire hazards and safety stuff. So if that's your job for the day, you just carry your sword around and you just watch movies and get paid. And that's sick. You have to think about it because no one's ever doing anything in a movie theater other than watching a movie. I mean, there are like 2 situations out of like thousands of going into these theaters where I saw something weird, but like, you just get to watch movies and get paid. What a great job, It's almost like playing video games and getting paid, but you get a lightsaber. Anyway.
I mean, it's dark in these movie theaters, and sometimes you go on a date with the girls. So it could be, All right. But anyway, last question. Favorite sport to watch?
Hearthstone.
Let's go. Right answer.
There we go.
Hey, he did it.
That's the last question I have. Thank you for playing. I just wanted to help everybody learn a little more about David. Maybe not on the Hearthstone side, but just like learn more about him in a rapid fire setting. And I hope you had fun with it. All right.
You know how messed up this was? D-Money said that he might do this and like shoot random questions off, but he's not going to do it today to Superior right before we went live. And then he actually did it. So he actually threw Superior David a curveball. This is real right now.
Testing his reaction time.
Yeah.
I hope I lived up to the challenge. I feel like I did okay.
You did great.
You passed you took a little long on a couple of the questions, but we'll allow it this time.
Yeah, we'll give it.
No points docked.
Oh, phew.
All right. Well,
so
the
we
meta.
have the meta.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's different or not different.
Is it? It looks very similar to me. Shaman is at the bottom, Warlock at the bottom, Mage and Priest near the bottom, and then Rogue, Hunter, and Paladin at the top. And I'm pretty sure that's very similar to last week. If anybody wants to.
It looks like Rogue has moved up a tiny bit, and it looks like Mage has also moved up a bit. But besides that, everything seems to be staying the same. I know Mage has been getting a lot of popularity with Tempo Mage, and now also a mid-range Highlander deck that APX Void had started. I think Rogue is also gaining a lot of popularity over the days. Of course, there's the Stealth Aggro Rogue. There's also Secret Rogue, which is actually pretty decent as well. It's like a Thief Rogue.
Weapon Rogue?
So I feel like, honestly, like there's days where I just like constantly run into like all rogues. And I know Superior David was saying before the podcast that he like yesterday he was running into like all Tempo Mage. So it makes sense that these are gaining in popularity. Like they are very strong decks, and I think the more people play them, the higher the win percentage is going to get because they are learning how to really capture all that power and play with all that power that's there. It's just they have to learn how to do it.
There's like a million different rogue decks too. Like it's pretty hard to guess what like actual version they're running until you're about like 3 or 4 turns in too, because it's always like Spy Mistress and Sneaky Delinquent, and then on turn 3 you're like, okay, the Grey Heart Sage, and then eventually like you're like, okay, they have Self-Sharpening Sword, so like this is the kind where you like you need to break their weapon because they have Steel Dancers, but then they might just start like doing like I've seen Wolf Riders. Have you seen those builds too, where they run the chart? Yeah. It's crazy. And then there's some of them are still running the questing adventures and stuff too. So you don't know to like allocate your resources to remember that you're going to have to remove one of these things immediately because half of them don't run those and some of them do. The rogues are scary, man. Like there's just a million different kinds and they're all very, very potent.
There is one consistency among all of the rogues. There's one card that guarantee is in their deck, and that's going to be Secret Passage. And I think that's what makes these like fast-paced aggro /stealth /thief /secret rogues very viable right now. Is that passage? It's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That card made Kingsbane and Wild even like one of the best wild decks ever, which is kind of crazy to think about because like that deck was not a good deck. Very like it was tier 3 or something prior, but now that Secret Passage came out, Rogue is like a force to be reckoned with, even in like the meta with like every card ever printed. So it's super impactful. I think that's for sure.
Absolutely, it's definitely like a very powerful card. Everyone says it's OP, and I think it probably is a little like overtuned. But honestly, like I feel like generally I'm okay when my opponent plays it. I know like they'll even like scam the win off me, but I feel like it's more satisfying to play against than like the Lackey Stone we had last expansion with Galakrond and whatnot. So it's sort of refreshing in a way.
A different way to lose is refreshing.
Yeah, man. Variety is the spice of life.
Sure.
I think I would rather lose in different ways than the same way all the time.
Yeah.
I think there's actually some truth to that statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's so frustrating though when it's a top deck Secret Passage. Like when they have 0 cards in their hand and then they top deck it, I think that's like one of the worst ways to ever lose a game.
That's fair.
Yeah, definitely feels bad.
Really?
It's because they didn't top deck one card, they top deck like 5 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get why top decking a Secret Passage would be annoying, but I think like one of the like what annoyed me the most when playing against Rogue in the past was like when they get their Galakron right, and then they get the lackeys flowing, and then you having to play around Draconic Lackey, which could lead into them having like Alexstrasza's, and like all of these they get a DQA and their deck's thin, so all of a sudden now you have to worry about DQA, and then the dragons that come off that, and now it's just like, oh, you're worried about a card that's like in their deck, like their whole deck kind of revolves around eventually drawing at least one secret passage, right? Instead of playing around the million variations of lackey discovers. So I really don't mind this version of Rogue too much. Granted, Secret Passage is very good, but like the lackeys was getting to me, and I'm glad that's kind of like toned down a little bit.
We had a lot of Galakron Rogue over like the last like half year, man. Like I think like the second that deck came out, and like no, it wasn't the second it came out. It was once they hit Shaman, that people started to realize that the Galakron Rogue was like a absolute monster. And then it became the best deck in the game, then it became the second best deck in the game, then it became the best deck in the game again, and then it eventually kind of was the only rogue you could play forever. So I know where you're coming from, man. Like it's so nice to not have to deal with all of the all that generation and the 0 mana cards and everything. But the rogue that's out now is a lot more roguey. Like I think this is like it reminds me of old Rogue versus like because the Galakron Rogue deck was weird. It wasn't like an actual Rogue because they didn't have early game stuff. They just had like a Seal Fate and a Backstab and maybe like a Skyvateer or something. But this deck has a ton of early game.
That's all it has.
Yeah, stealth minions.
I know, yeah, I love it. It's so like these new Rogue decks actually feel like you're playing Rogue again, and it's been like, I don't know, Rogue seems to be having a little bit of a renaissance right now, and it's really refreshing to like they play this stealth minion and you're like, yeah, that's something that Rogue likes to do, and it's not just like a Galakron deck.
I mean, that's cool. Like, sure, their class identity is like coming back, but like, let's be real. Like, I'm really not a fan of like. Oh my god, it's so frustrating to play against. It's just Face Hunter, but now they have a new hero portrait, and it's Valera,
and she's the pirate.
Yeah, it's really just like not fun to play against for me. Like, cool, they get to do stealth things, but I wish the whole deck wasn't just I'm going face. Like, I have a little more respect for the secret version, thief version, but at the same time, then that one is all RNG based because it's like wand thieves and dragons hordes and just random secrets. So I feel like Rogue in a nutshell is just so infuriating, or at least for me to play against. And I'm happy that you guys feel that it's like cool now, you know. But I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I'm like doing everything in my power to not.
You play a lot of priest and mage. That's what Rogue is like. Rogue kicks priest and mage
it's not even because I lose against
Chad is pointing this out, actually. For D-Money having to play against decks that punish slow mage decks.
It's not even because I lose against it. It's just I don't like the whole play style of these decks. I never really been a rogue fan. I don't like aggro decks. I don't. But like, still, I can respect some aggro decks. I can't respect stealth aggro rogue. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I can respect the like linear nature of the deck. Like it's very like linear and like you know what it's gonna do. It's not trying to like generate a bunch of randomness to like scam you out of win. It's just like, hey, we have a lot of burn. We want to go face. We're very linear. If you can't stop us, we win. If you disrupt us, we probably just fold. And like I like that in the deck.
You said variety is a slice of life before, didn't you? You know, like I'm a spontaneous person, David. Okay.
Yeah, you dog box.
That's
your bread and butter is box. Of course you are.
Sometimes I Solarian Prime. Okay.
Oh man.
Solarian.
So
go ahead.
A couple things I wanted to note. To last tidbit on the Rogue deck, it's surprisingly budget as well. So for those players who may not have a ton of dust and they want to craft a good deck, that Rogue deck is also like a pretty viable option. And there's a bunch of different builds that take away just a couple cards, and the cards that they put in there are also pretty budget. So you can build like 3 renditions of aggro Rogue, and all of them are very viable, very budget, and like a couple cards here and there. But something I want to take a look at was Paladin being number 1. Is that still Libram Paladin up there? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah. That's just the answer to that question. It's yes. It's honestly just because it's probably the most powerful deck on like if you curve it out, and it's pretty easy to learn how to play. There's not a lot of decisions. There are decisions in it, but there's not as much as like the other really like playing Libram Paladin is less difficult than playing Rogue, for example, because there's not a million things you can do in one turn. You just kind of play the cards that you can play, grab the Librams when you can play them, and sometimes you just win. And I think it makes it just kind of overall on the ladder, it's just kind of hard to beat that kind of consistency.
And then my last question, Warrior number 6. Yesterday, when we were casting, Warrior banned out almost every set. Everybody's toting it to be really good, but yet it's not very high on the list. What's up with that?
DavidSuperiorDavid, yeah, you look like you want to.
Oh no, I'm actually confused by that as well, because when I play against the deck, it feels quite strong, but then I'm like, maybe I'm just playing like counters into it. Yeah. I guess it's not like the most straightforward deck, so I think it could be a matter of like a deck. It's a deck that's like really powerful in the hands of like a high skill like legend Hearthstone player, but like it's not like a curve out deck, so I think it might be a little bit harder to pick up, and maybe that explains the lower win rate. Because I'm really surprised by that.
It's a lot of questions, a lot of decisions, a lot of questions, a lot of combos, a lot of experience with the mulligans versus specific archetypes that make Warrior better. And I just think it's just suffering to we're looking at the data of everyone playing over all servers at any rank right here. I don't think that actually reflects the strength of the deck at all.
I think I actually don't mind it being over there. It is. I'd say it's like closer to maybe number 5 or 4. I think it is strong. I just think it's more strong in tournaments than on ladder. Just because you're specifically targeting things with it, and it is really, really strong in specific matchups. And if you maybe just ban out the matchups that it is weak against, which aren't too many, then it just becomes like a force to be reckoned with. But I feel like a lot of people on ladder have been countering Warrior by putting in oozes, putting in sticky fingers. So that will be giving people a rough time. I know for me, when I bring Warrior into these tournaments, Bomb Warrior, it gets banned 9 out of 10 rounds. So I think it is strong. Every time I play against it, I think it's strong as well for the tournament format. So that's maybe why it's not all the way at the top.
I think we can probably go into our next segment right here, because Warrior is actually number 4 of the best decks in the game. Like DMoney was saying that he thinks it belongs at. So like in our next graphic we have here of like the which decks in like top legend are performing with the highest win rate. This is the top 1,000 in America right here. And we can see Enraged Warrior is like number 4 on that kind of category. So it is one of the strongest decks in the game if you play it at an optimized level. That Enraged Warrior does look like it has the bomb package in it as well. From the graphic, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like it has. Yeah, that's Hellscream. That's Bomb Wrangler, and we have Enrages in there as well. So, and that's a Live Wire Lances, and the new, I think it's 1 or 2 mana card that gives a minion +3 attack. Anybody familiar with the name of that warrior card?
The Shield of Honor.
There you go.
Yep.
And this deck looks dirty.
Yeah, have you actually played that one right there? That was what Gabby, the guy who has like number 1 all the time. I used that for a little bit, and basically the only new cards that it has in it, because we were watching yesterday when Warshack and I were watching GM, we were watching someone play that deck, and the only new cards that it has in it are the Shield of Honors and Lord Baroff, but it's the entire normal like Enraged Skipper package situation going on.
Yeah, it looks very good. Yeah, it's like you just swap out like Rampage for the Shield of Honor, and it's just like better now.
Yeah. It's really, it's just taking a deck that was already like very, very strong, just giving it a little more juice, and it's still good. Barov is insane board clear for the deck, like especially because they're usually always having skippers in their hand with like Armor Smith anyway, and this just allows you to do so much more. And just especially with all like the druids and everything, which have those huge statted minions that can get taunt as well. Like this just makes it so much easier to deal with that and still be able to push the face there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out the fact that Libram Paladin is tier 1 in top 1000 legend, because that was not the case last week, yesterday, or the day before, or like ever. And I think we can actually realize that what's going on is some rock, paper, scissors with the deck right underneath of it, which is that Soul Demon Hunter, the Control Demon Hunter, because the only matchup that feels like completely fucking horrible is that Libram Paladin deck right there. And it's very hard to beat that. So in top 1000, I think it might be coming back because the popularity of the new Demon Hunter deck is really picking up, and that deck is just kind of a polarized auto lose to it. So, yeah, now it has a really good matchup that's just all over ladders now. So we're seeing like the tic-tac-toe happen here, which is interesting.
And what's better than Libram is the Highlander Hunter. I had honestly, did not see any of that, a lot of it, like almost at all. And then now it's just boom, number 1. There it is.
I mean, that could also contribute to why it's up there, is that not a lot of people are expecting it. Then you just take them by surprise and you beat them. Maybe they think you're playing Face Hunter and they play around certain things, and you just cheese out a win.
I mean, yeah, that definitely happened to me earlier in the week, where I was like, oh, cool, Hunter, probably going to be like Secret Face Hunter. And he like curves out, he plays like, 1 drop into the Imprisoned Felmon. I'm like, okay, cool, this is gonna be fine. And then like he plays like a Zephyrus, and I'm just like, oh, hey there.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, the one thing that's really crazy about the way this works too is I've played a Highlander Hunter, and I didn't even think about the way this card worked in the deck until I ran into the similar situation as SuperiorDavid just suggested right there, where it just took me by surprise, where I was playing against a guy who I thought was a Face Hunter, and then all of a sudden on turn 6, he dropped a Polkelt on me, and then like hero powered, and I was just like, what is happening right now? Oh, no. And then the next turn he just like branded me for a lethal, and I was just like, I did not expect that to happen, but he put it on the top of his deck, drew it, and killed me. I was like, wow, okay, that was a very interesting way to end a game as a Face Hunter, but it was actually a Highlander. So yeah, Polkelt is in that list too, so I think that card actually really does help the deck find its super powerful stuff. So very cool.
Yeah, I mean, getting you the most powerful card in the deck, which I'm sure Warshack was going to say, like one of the best 7 drops in the whole entire game.
Yeah. Like most of the time, when the Hunter brands you on 7, you're either dead or you're dying the next turn. And Hunter has always been a deck that basically lacks draw. So like finding that card is what they always try to do, and Polkelt just guarantees that you find that card. Not by draw, but by reordering the deck, so it's the first one on top. So it's like even better than draw. It's a guaranteed Dino Dog.
And if they manage to clear it, the cards you draw after it are the other Hunter cards that end it out. Which it's like okay, there's your Varanus, so you can combo it with your other things, and then it's like, oh, and then after that you get your Rottenness. Then after that you draw your Dragon's Bane, and then you're just ending the game. Like.
I've actually played a decent amount of Highlander Hunter recently, and after you get the Bran, it actually feels like you don't want your deck still in that order, because sometimes you want like that last extra damage to push through, and like you want to draw like a Kill Command or a Corrosive Breath or like a Zephyrus, and like now like Zeph is like buried in your deck, and like you're like not getting to him, so like you have to really like
gotta draw those first.
Like, you have to make sure that like when you play Polkelt, like you're like about to end the game, or like you have like a game plan for the next few turns, or else it might just backfire and your outs just become irrelevant. Like you're just not going to get them.
Absolutely. I feel like Polkelt is a card that you don't normally just want to slam on curve. I've made that mistake, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll play the Polkelt on curve, and I'm like, look at my hand, I'm like, wait, I can't play anything the next turn. I'm going to draw a card that I can't play the next turn. So it's a cool card.
I made that same mistake, dude. I was like, Polkelt, yeah, I'm gonna reorder my deck. I'm gonna draw the best stuff, and you slam them, and then your next turn, you're like, dude, I can't play that or that or that, and this requires soul shards, and I don't have any soul shards in my deck because all their 1 and 2 drops are at the bottom. I'm screwed, man.
Well, it honestly does work in the Soul Demon Hunter deck that's like optimized though, because if you play it on curve, you draw your Soul Theologist Militia on 5, and then you draw your Skull on 6. So you don't really care about the card you draw right after it being reduced, because the card you get next is your skull to go into all your 5-drops and turn them into 2-drop minion, 2-cost cards. So that's like the way to beat priests, and it works. Like if you're playing like Soul Shard Demon Hunter and you're playing against a priest, usually assembling all of the giant damage minions for 2 and then like letting them do whatever the hell they want to do in your hand, can push that through, which is weird. Playing on curve is good sometimes.
Are we moving on to Controlled Demon Hunter or anything else on Highlander Hunter? I'm ready for this.
Okay, we can go in. We can just do that segment and then talk about the Firebat stuff because we're like already on topic right now.
Sure.
So I'll do the intro for this. So SuperiorDavid hit top 100. I believe it was 76?
I think it was 77, but yeah, if you want 70, cool, 76, you know.
Yeah,
we're gonna round it up to 76. And SuperiorDavid hit a very high rank in Legend with his spin off of this deck, and I had to admit, when I first looked at it, I was like, this doesn't look like the right way to do this. I feel like these cards aren't perfect. And then I started playing the exact version that he was playing, and then I realized that I was actually mistaken, and the way he built the deck felt way better than the way that I was playing it as well. And a lot of other people I know that are really into this Demon Hunter deck have picked up SuperiorDavid's list and been like, this is the shit. This is the way you do this. And if you look at Hearthstone top decks, it's one of the it's on there right now and everything. And what's been your discovery, David?
Well, I think people are still running the Vulpure Scoundrels, which I don't know if we have the Mulligan stats, probably don't. Well, if you look at the Mulligan stats, it's like kept like 60% of the time in the Mulligan, and it has like a sub 40% win rate. So they're just like really bad. And I think you're going to see people starting to cut those. I cut them and I put in Glidebound Adepts instead. And like you said, Draco, it really helps the Priest matchup, which the deck sort of struggled with, because you play the Pulkelt, you get your skull, you rip the skull on curve, and then you get like two either like 2 Glidebound Adepts or 2 Soul Shard Lapidaries, and then like one or the other. So you get like 3 cards, 2 mana each, and together they can dish out like nearly half of your like 13 damage or something in a turn, and that's like half your opponent's life, and you could really just decimate any slower deck when you get those combination of cards. It's really powerful.
Especially because right after you grab the 5-drops, you get all the Marrow Slicers after that to reshuffle your deck to make so that your cards are no longer coming in awkward ways, and you get the healing again. And then those are 8 damage over turn as well. So like that in combination with the Adepts and the Lapidaries is just really overwhelming, because playing those cards for 2 mana when they are attached to 5/5 bodies and 6/4s, it's like not only is your opponent about to die, but they have to figure out how to clear the stuff on the board and save their life at the same time. It's very overwhelming.
It's funny, like, because like we don't like. I feel like this deck doesn't even really care about like the bodies or the board. It really just wants the damage, and like if your opponent can't clear it off, that's just sort of like, it's just like icing on top of the cake. You're just like, oh cool, I'll just get more damage in.
Yeah, bummer.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, gotta go face more.
An interesting thing that I had happen, which was against that Priest matchup, because I was having a hard time building the deck to beat Priest until I started playing the version like you made and with the Adepts in it. The thing I was running into with the way you built it is at one time I let a Priest take me down to 2 health because they had board in the beginning of the game, and then I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna Pulkelt, I'm gonna Skull, I'm gonna assemble all of this damage in my hand and all this insane value, and I do not care that they're building minions and buffing it on the board. And then eventually I had the ability to spin it with a Blade Dance and a Lapidary for 2 mana, kill off like the whole board, and then after that I was able to actually spin the whole entire game around and win it. But I let the Priest take me down to 2 health that they did not have the ability to clear by the end of the game, that I was able to dish it out. And it was insane to think about the fact that I ignored what the entire other deck was doing, realizing they didn't have burst, and then you could actually spin it around with them just needing a little poke to kill you.
Of course you ignored what the other person was doing, because you're playing Demon Hunter. That's their class identity, okay? You have Kane, you have all these things that you don't care. You can do whatever you want. I'm just playing my own game over here,
Yeah, man.
I've learned the joys of not caring about what your opponent's doing. It's been pretty great. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Demon Hunter. Like before this, I've like never played Demon Hunter, and now I'm just like I get it now. I'm like, this deck's a lot of fun. It's sort of like if you're into like old school Freeze Mage, I feel like there's more similarities with like that deck than like normal decks in Hearthstone, because like you don't really want to curve out with this deck. You're more like trying to just burst them down, and it's been fun. It's been a fun little adventure playing this deck.
Yeah. The biggest tip I can give to anyone who like wants to learn it, because I've had a lot of people that like, you know, that watch stream and stuff. They've said to me like, you know, I've tried this. It seems like I'm doing something wrong. I don't know why I can't win with it. And the best advice I can give to anyone who's trying to learn how to play Soul Shard Demon Hunter is to count your damage in your hand every single turn between your turns, because you always have these twin slices and then your adepts, and you can never. And a lot of times I see people playing and they're not actually realizing that they have 2-turn clocks in their hand. So like if you have 2 lapidaries and your opponent's at 20 health, and you can play them both in the same turn because one's reduced, playing them makes your opponent like have to kill those minions or he just loses. And putting your opponent at those moments and realizing when you have the ability to do that it really comes from actually doing the math between the turns to see when you have those 2-turn clocks, which it's hard to spot because sometimes you're just grabbing cards and you're thinking about what they were playing. Then you kind of don't need to think about that sometimes. You just need to think about how to kill them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that honestly should go for like all decks, really, is that you should be doing the math ahead of time, usually. It does help you plan out your turns better. But I have even better advice for you if you're trying to learn Soul Demon Hunter. You should totally check out DracoCatt's stream or SuperiorDavid's stream. You know, if you want to, like, if you want some high quality content. I know SuperiorDavid, he's been killing it with the deck building recently. I mean, I'm sure you've been doing it the whole time, but just so far as I've noticed, like when the expansion just dropped, he came out with a really, really good Libram Paladin list, which I stole from him immediately because it was like I was like, okay, this shit's. I honestly went like 10-0 with it in like 2 seconds, and like I was like top 50 or something.
That is crazy. I had the same experience with it, man. I downloaded I like net decked SuperiorDavid's Libram Paladin deck right when the expansion came out too, and brought it to my qualifiers for the day, and it just like swept everything. And I was like, whoa, dude, this is ridiculously good, man. With the double Pharaoh's blessing in it and stuff like that. I remember. Yeah. It was
that's spicy.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah, you know, like I feel like I don't normally do much deck building. This expansion, I've really just been digging Skullmance. It's really like reignited that desire to like, you know, find new brews. Like where like Ashes of Alland, it was just like, okay, Demon Hunter is oppressively powerful, and like it felt like there was really nothing you could do to combat that. And now that I feel like we have answers to deal with things in the game right now and everything. Like power level, you know, like there's definitely things that are like maybe a little too strong, but I think overall the power level's been more manageable for decks to deal with, and that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's like what I said after playing. I did a 24-hour stream for the expansion, and after playing for 24 hours straight, I was like, so many things feel really, really good, but everything is actually beatable. Mm-hmm. And I strongly believe that. Like, there's actually like, except for Turtle Mage sometimes if you're not playing Priest, but everything is really like beatable, and that's really cool as like a deck building perspective. And I feel like I say the same thing every week. Like somebody's got to stop me eventually, but there's so many. there's still so much untapped power. There's still so many decks that are still yet to be created. Like there's still so many cards I feel that haven't really been played with too much. Like one that comes to mind that I'm still trying to build a deck around is Vectis. I feel like that card was. Everybody thought that card was going to be so strong, like one of the strongest cards of the expansion, and we've like never seen it at all. I feel like there's a deck for it somewhere. What'd you say?
I said I had some fun with that card. I played him in Death Rattle Albatross Priest.
Death Rattle Albatross Priest? That sounds so toxic, man.
Yeah. No, it was. It was the most.
Priest.
Yeah. All right. Let's calm down here. So. I was getting tired of going against the druids playing animal companions on 7 or guardian animals, and I got tired of Libram Paladin, so I just built like I think I mentioned this like a week ago. I just built the whole deck around Albatross, and I put every resurrect mechanic I could to keep bringing back Albatross and also Vectis, so they would like guardian animals and they get 2 1/1 birds instead of thrashers and everything. So it worked out really well. A lot of people just conceded after about the 7th or 8th Albatross. I had most priests just concede the second their Zephyrus wasn't active. They like Morazon and they'd give an Albatross, and I just take that Albatross and just appreciate the Albatrossness. So
yeah, it's like next level, not fun.
Very good.
You know?
No, it was terrible. I hopefully that deck doesn't become a thing. Holy crap, I'd quit Hearthstone. It was so bad.
Yeah, but I think Vectis does. He still has so much potential, and I'm sure, I'm sure we're gonna see it soon. Honestly, there's so many cards that still haven't really been played with too much, and I feel like a lot of people are just playing whatever's the best thing right now. Especially with the end of the month coming up right now. People just want that top finish. I know I do, so I'm really more hesitant to really just experiment with cards. But as soon as next season hits, I want to try to just dive into making new archetypes and using cards that are underused right now.
So you're not going to be playing Mage?
Oh, I'll be playing Mage.
Mage.
Back this Mage, yeah. I mean, you get Solarians back. It's pretty good. I can't think of what else I would want to get back. Maybe Cartoot or something.
Yeah, Cartoot.
Yeah.
I've actually been seeing Vectis, some people jamming Quest Hunter and using the Vectis and that. Just like even if you don't have any death rattles in your pool, it's just cool to get the 3 bodies down to advance the quest.
That's
and
true, actually.
It worked okay for me. I didn't really have much success with Quest Hunter. I feel like it's an archetype that's sort of just it's got Unleash the Hound, so that deck could hang occasionally.
Yeah, it might be a little too slow for the meta. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question.
What's your question?
This pertains back to our last graphic, but I didn't get a chance to ask. Shaman is at the absolute bottom, and it continues to stay there in the trenches of the abyss of terrible classes. And I would like each of your opinion. What do you think is the best Shaman deck if someone is interested to play Shaman? Doesn't have to be some long answer. Just what if there's a Shaman deck that you had to be like, you know what, I could maybe win a game with that. What would it be?
I think it's the Spell Shaman that Flying Kraken made. It's in my Discord. We all laughed at it at first and then killed a whole bunch of people with it. And it's got I don't know how it actually came together, and I don't have a reason to explain why it's so good. But I currently have the HS replay stats of it and ranked at 9 and 2 or something like that. It was a monster. Yeah, I like the Spell Shaman, even though the totem stuff is okay.
So is that just burst or what is that?
It was basically, it had the things that made it kind of interesting. I have to look at the list right now. Oh my god. Was it basically the win con was the Fireheart. I would just get so much burst with that thing all the time. And then I also had the situation where I would have lightning bolts at 9 damage a lot of turns and stuff too. And you ran the sorcerers with the 6/6 drops on the top end of it as well. The splits into the 2 6/6s.
I love that card.
Yeah. So there was that card was one of the few things on the top end of it that kind of made it work. And you ran the 3/2s, the draw card if you have spell damage and everything like that as well.
Does it run the Dwarven Archaeologist guy, the 2/3? That when you discover a card, it costs 1 less or something?
Ooh, that sounds spicy.
That does sound pretty cool though.
I know
that wasn't in there. But the one thing that
meme with that with the Fireheart.
Yeah. The spell burst card brings it together. The one that returns the spell to your hand, because I would do that a lot with lightning bolts and stuff like that to chain a lot of damage together and stuff. The 2/3, what is that called? The
Diligent Note Taker.
The Note Taker.
Thank you. Such a funny name for a card. The Diligent Note Taker. Oh man.
All right. Do we want to go into the Firebat controversy?
Bring it on.
D-Money, you ignored my Shaman question. The only one I answered was
Draco.
Shaman
deck.
I'd have to agree with DracoCatt. I think some sort of spell damage, burst Shaman is probably the best. I tried playing Quest Shaman over the weekend, and I can tell you it did not go well. The deck just sort of dirtles around, and it's you get some battle cries off, you get to press the button and generate a lot of cards, but I feel
and you die.
yeah, exactly. Decks just go face and ignore what you're doing. I got 1 win, and it was against Jay Alexander, and he would play a stealth rogue. And I just happened to get the 2-mana 2/2 that deals 1 damage to all of his minions, and so I just I got both of them. So I just killed his stealth board twice, and it was hysterical. But other than that, I had no success with the deck.
So it was worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. It was totally worth it. It was very funny.
And you get to BM your opponent just by playing your cards, because you play Penflinger, who's hey loser.
Yeah.
And then
you sort of kick them all down,
Is that really what he says when you play him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, loser.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
That's
hysterical.
awesome, dude.
So BM. Yeah, I've seen that Quest Shaman. I do think it's a meme, but hey, it's rough for Shaman. You got to just try out everything right now, and I really don't play against Shamans. I actually played against like one Shaman for like the past 2 weeks, and it was a Highlander Shaman, and I lost to it because he Bander smoshed into a Ysera. But besides that, I really think like there's not good Shaman lists. I don't even want to like lie and recommend a deck for people to play because it's just like just don't do it. I don't know unless you find something. I don't know. I think Draco's deck seems like the most viable.
It's Kraken's deck, but it's in the chat. So if you want it, like.
Wait, actually, I got a question. What do you think? Sorry for I'm going off the rails here. But what do you guys think Shaman needs to like have a viable deck in the meta?
Value.
Draw. Probably draw.
Fireheart was like a decent inclusion, but it needs more than just Fireheart. And yeah, draw. That's a huge thing. Draco. Like you have Farsight and the card's trash.
Yeah,
the card is, like it doesn't even go in the recycling bin. It can't even be recycled. It's just trash. You just put that in a dumpster and just let like wither away.
Early game cards that have rush and do shit, like because it just falls behind because you just can play totems and then like you can't play a hunter or a demon hunter and expect to have board against them ever. They're always just going to clear your shit and then you're going to be stuck. And the only thing that you can really hope to do in Shaman is to land like a totem reflection in one of those like what is it called, the 0 mana totemic whatever where it gets the health and then that you have stuff stick in that fashion. But that's kind of like a multi-card combo to get that kind of stuff to work, and that's super unlikely if you think about it over multitude of games.
Shaman doesn't have like much draw, so it's like okay, they need this multi-card combo in order to like turn their deck on, but first they need to draw into it, and like that isn't going to really happen realistically.
They need this multi-card combo to do what a mage can do on turn 2 with a lab researcher in cramp studies. Like, it's just like with this set of 5 cards, I could draw 3, and it's like. Freaking tempo mage. All right, let me just play this 2 mana cram studies and draw 4.
Yeah.
I feel like they just need like. Sorry, I feel like Shaman just needs like tools to like Draco was saying, like to get the board like tempo oriented like cards because they really just don't have that. They have value actually, like especially with the quests for like late game, and they have like. The totems, which is like burst, or they have like burst potential and everything, but they don't have like anything that's gonna stick on the board really, or like just like something to actually just like generate tempo. I don't know. There's no like with rogues. I guess they can just like flood the board with like these small minions and like just like constantly put on pressure. And like Shaman just can't do that. They can. They're just like they're like saving up these combos, and that's just not gonna work in a meta like this. And I feel like what somebody said in chat, like about like the basic / classic set for Shaman, like I feel like that is what's going to help it a lot. And like they said, they're going to rework, or they probably will be touching up on the basic and classic sets for like all or classic cards for all classes, like heading into this next year. And I feel like Shaman is like one that really needs it. Like you have so many cards that are just not played just because they're strictly bad.
I have a question, guys. Exactly so this is something that hasn't been printed because it might be a little bit too powerful because it's the premium stat line on like a very valuable ability. But what if we gave Shaman the 2 mana 2/3 rush, like the ability to trade into other cards or 1 mana cards on turn 2, or they can like coin it out and just immediately take board. What do you think about? Do you think that would help? You think that would be enough?
Yeah, but
2 mana 2/3 rush.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really in like Shaman's identity though. Like they're not like really a rush class, so to speak. I feel like if anything, Shaman would get like a 1-drop that's like, maybe like 1/2, 1/3 death rattle, summon a totem or something. Like just a better 1-drop to not lose the board immediately. Maybe that would help and be more like in flavor with Shaman.
They do have rushes with the Galakron, and then the totems do have overload rush if you choose to give overload to them. So they put rush specifically in Shaman intentionally, but they don't do it enough for it to actually share the benefit like Hunter has of being able to impact board with minions. So it's like they gave it a little bit of that identity, but it's falling victim to the thing that everything that Shaman cards fall victim to, which it doesn't have enough of the good stuff. You know, like it has a little bit of draw, has a little bit of rush, but not enough to be competitive with the things that really lean on their strengths.
Yeah,
totally.
Go
ahead, guys. Sorry.
Okay, I would like to see them go back to like the overload archetype. Like I miss cards like that 3-mana 2/4. I don't even remember his name anymore because nobody plays it. Like the 3-mana 2/4 that interacts with the overload. Like I like the overload mechanic. I feel like totem is so, I guess, linear. Just like I don't know. So I would rather them go back and like retouch, like touch up some overload cards like Lightning Storm or that 2/4 guy as well. Personally,
yeah. So I mean, I mained Shaman in WoW for many years, Elemental Shaman, and the cool thing about when you played Shaman is because you had the totems, which we know about, and then like there was different breeds of totems. So like you'd have like 4 different fire totems, right? 4 different water totems, a couple different like earth totems, and right now Hearthstone I don't think does a good job at like, there's no actual totem minions besides the new totem Goliath, which summons like just basic totems. So maybe in the future we could see like actual minions that are part of that fire totem realm. So you could be like a fire or like fire totem shaman, and it's like based around searing totems and flame tongue totems and doing direct damages with overload. Or you could have like a resto like water shaman, which is based around more control and, you know, healing, and you know what I mean. So like they don't really play into the talents of what a shaman is in WoW at all. Like, and that's where these are supposed to come from.
And Flying Kraken brought up a good point in chat. He's saying like there should be like more cards like runic carvings where they like can choose to overload for a better effect or a lesser effect than overload. I think that decision would add like a lot more depth to the class. Like I even think like a card like Lightning Storm, like it's like the only like early game AoE shaman has, and it sucks.
It is terrible.
It destroys your follow-up turn. It's like, you can, and then you also have to rely on RNG to hit the breakpoint on the 3 health minions, which is super BS. Like in comparison to like what other classes can do, you know, it's
very
just like makes or breaks the whole game. Yeah.
I'm thinking like maybe like you make it 3 mana. It's the same thing, 3 mana, but then like it just does 2 damage, or you can overload it to then do 3. And I'm like, that would actually be like really cool and like introduce decision making, which I think would be better for the class.
Yeah, where it's like when you're playing against a shaman, you can decide like, oh, let me play these 3 health minions instead of the 2 health minions, so that they have to overload themselves on turn 3, which will allow my turn 4 to get ahead. You know, like you can like, and then you can kind of have the same kind of interaction with the shaman player on the other side, where you decide like, maybe I'll just like clear these now and then do this next without overloading, because I can remove it next turn and leave it at 1 health now. You know, it's kind of nuts. That'd be better. Agreed.
Man, I know we didn't like plan this, but I'm digging the impromptu shaman talk here.
Yes.
No, yeah. My question I did not think it was going to dive as deep into the shaman well as we did, but I'm glad we talked about it. I think we had some good combo, but we do need to move on to the next segment just for time purposes. We're at an hour.
We could talk about how bad shaman is forever. I mean,
I hope you guys like this. You got to put the image up that we put in the thing.
Well, I was going
to
talk about it and then have the image up while we talk about it, but Perfect. I wanted to like, okay.
Sorry guys, I got excited.
So who wants to kick off on this? I know a little bit about it, but this was not
I'll
my
do
segment.
it. I read about it a little bit ago. So Firebat got fined $1,000 for missing a Grandmaster match. And if we read the articles about the Grandmaster rules, it does state that if you are late to check-in, which he was, you get a $500 fee. And if you're late and if you don't show up to participate in your game that's scheduled, it's a $1,000 fine. So as we can see, even though a lot of the internet has spun things to kind of say like, I can't believe that Blizzard fined him $1,000. If we look at the rules that are actually stated in the GM thing, he was actually kind of given a little bit of grace. by the fact that he wasn't fined $1,500, but he was fined $1,000. So some people don't believe this is acceptable because the American grandmasters are forced to have the most pivotal time because they follow the schedule after Asia and then Europe grandmasters. So if, Tyler 3-0 someone from Asia Pacific in the morning and EU starts 2 hours early, and then those guys did the same thing, then all of the American grandmasters have to be on their toes to be ready to play 3 hours earlier than their original scheduled time, which is just the way it is at the moment. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's unfair?
I mean, personally, I'm fine with that. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a big penalty for sure. But if you we were talking about this a little before the podcast, and Draco was sharing the same opinion as me that if you made it to this step to this point where you're making like so much money on these matches, and like this is such a huge thing in your life, and this is just a very important thing in esports. I feel like you should be prepared to be on whatever time schedule they're on. Like you're basically on call, like a doctor is on call, and like they have to be prepared for like whenever they have to wake up or whatever, or like go to the office. And I feel like it's the same thing with Hearthstone. It's just like professionalism, and you like if I was, listen up Blizzard, if I was in Grandmasters, okay, I would definitely be on time for everything. I would definitely be early for being on time, and like just I would make
Someone
sure
get him
that
in.
I'm gonna be yeah.
Get this kid a Grandmasters.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Get him the Grandmaster bundle. That's what we talked about, remember?
Yeah, very similar to what D-Money mentioned about like being on call. So, Draco made a good point of with the Americas being the last one of the day, and it's basically whenever they start is determined by how fast and or how slow Asia Pacific and EU are with their matches. We could be very early some days, we could be very late some days, and the kind of thread that I read is there's a pretty big window that they ask you to be ready to check in at. Like everything is very clearly stated, and everybody knows that Hearthstone games could take 5 minutes, it could be dead on turn 5, or it could last 40 minutes if you have a priest versus priest mirror or something like that. So with everything like clearly laid out, it's frustrating, not having a clear time of like, hey, I'm going to be playing my Grandmasters games on stream at 12, and it could be 9, it could be 3, but that's kind of like what you vote into, or not vote into, but what you step into being a Grandmaster and being part of the esports circuit for Hearthstone. These are rules that everybody has to follow, not just a single individual. Everybody's affected, so taking that into account, you can't really be upset when one person didn't step out of line but happened to miss a date. That's something you just got to go, hey, I'll do better next time. My bad. Chalk it up to like a learning experience, and that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could be more contrarian, but like I have to agree, it's harsh, but I think it's reasonable. It's in the rules, and I think scheduling events is a logistical nightmare as it is. But with Hearthstone, like Warshack, you were saying, games could take 5 minutes, they could go on for 40 minutes. So I think that although it seems harsh that he's getting fined for like Hearthstone, I think it's reasonable, it's in the rules, and I think it's also like necessary so that esports get taken seriously. So we're not just like looked at as like, yeah, we're a bunch of kids playing a children's card game. No, this is esports, man. This is like a serious thing. It's a league, and with its own rules, and players have to be beholden to those rules. So I think it's probably like the optics probably aren't great for Blizzard, but I think it's the right move.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I agree with that it probably isn't fair is that the American GMs are held to this more variable time difference than all of the other Grandmasters. But I realize there's also a whole bunch of moving components with that, like because these schedules are built on like what makes sense for the time clocks of the areas that they're in as well. So the way that the whole thing is built around Asia, then EU, then Americas is kind of built on like the time zones, So
yeah,
changing it and saying like, okay, we'll do America's first, then that would probably result in there being multiple players all over the world that are forced to like play video games at like 3 a.m. or something, which is kind of the way it's built to not do right now. So I think that if the I don't think it's fair that the Americans have to deal with that. But at the same time, you kind of have to think about all of the variables here and kind of like, okay, you're an American grandmaster. That sucks. If you don't want to, have the variable time schedule, maybe qualify through the Asia system next time or something. I don't know. Like, I don't think
that's how that works.
It's a hard split because, like you said, like if Americas were to go first to have the time zones be fair, like playing grandmasters playing at the level of grandmasters, like at 3 o'clock in the morning instead of maybe like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the afternoon is not going to work. So it's really hard to navigate, and you have different regions, like tons of players. I mean, logistically, it's most like it has to be a nightmare. So, and also a lot of people think like when him being fined, he has to like scratch a check and like give them money. I'm pretty sure it's just taken from like his prize
money he was going to get.
Yeah, the money he already basically has secured. He's not actually just like writing a check for $1,000 and then giving it to Blizzard for, because a lot of people thought like, oh, you just lost $1,000. It's like, well,
it was pinched out of a multi-$1,000 pot that was already going into his bank account. So
yeah.
I see a lot of people in chat like saying that like the scheduling was unfair and like it was difficult, and like I feel like we understand that, and like it might be a bit unreasonable, the timing, how everything worked out. But like I think we're just all under the consensus that like you have to do what you have to do. Like if you have to get up early, like you have to get up early. You have to be there. If you have to, if something ended really late, like that's just the nature of how it's set up. And like you can surely complain and you can tell them why it should be different. And like maybe this is a step towards changing that a little bit, but that's just the way that the rules are. And like whenever something bad like this happens, or unfortunate, then it does set like a precedent, and it does open other people's eyes to like saying like, oh, like I'm never gonna be late for this, or like maybe we should do something about this. So I think overall it's gonna turn out to be like a positive kind of thing, and it's something to learn from for Firebat and for just everybody in general.
Yeah, if anything, hopefully this will like push some change with the timings. I know it's probably, again, logistical nightmare, but maybe there will be some change there. And
it's also probably, I mean, we can't really say it's like based on viewership, because you can kind of agree that, normally with like as a streamer and as any kind of show or anything is, the more consistency you have with time, the better it is for the people that actually want to watch something specific, like if people want to watch EU Grandmasters, they know that comes on at like 11 o'clock if you live on the eastern coast of America. And that's when they want to watch in because they like to watch Tice or something like that. Where if you started shuffling all these times around, it might actually hurt the overall viewership in general, just because like when people want to log on to watch Bloody Face, like that's now like 1 o'clock at night. And so why even watch it at all now? Because it's going to be so variable. They can't even follow who they want to follow. So, I don't know. It's a really intense like thing to think about, like alternating the time slots and stuff like that. And I don't have an answer. I think it's that's a big executive thing to kind of make a decision about, and it's unlikely that they redo these kind of things to benefit one person after having a negative situation like this happen like once or twice. I bet it'll stay the same. Unfortunately,
I see. But why have a schedule if you're going to totally throw it out? So, like, again, these scheduling, they try to give you a rough estimate of, hey, this is roughly how long this sort of thing has taken in the past with these players, hopefully bringing this lineup. Hopefully they've done the math and try to, like, give as good estimates as they can. But like we've mentioned, Hearthstone, games could take 5 minutes. Games could take 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of factors here. So they basically say, hey, can you be on between the times of, like, 12 and 3? That's when we need... anywhere in that time you're going to be called upon, be ready within these 3 hours. And I think that's fair. Like if this is like their job, which Grandmasters is basically, I consider it the job, right? Like that's what's kind of just asked. And some people are saying like, hey, it's skewed in favor of the business and they don't care about the players. Well, the players are playing for Blizzard at the highest level of Hearthstone there can be, and that's kind of the job. And if you have to play, like if you have a 3-hour window, you need to be ready for Hearthstone, and then you're playing Hearthstone for 3 hours a day, that's 6 hours of work for that day. You're on call. That's kind of the time that you've chunked out that, hey, I'm a grandmaster. I'm getting paid pretty damn well for this. I gotta be ready for it. And yeah, it kind of sucks, like we mentioned, with the time difference, but like you have all these other regions that you need to respect as well. So
did these things happen when they had to be at a physical location? No. So now people are at home and now they're missing their things. You know what I mean? So that's kind of ridiculous if you think about that as well, because when they were all going to the exact location and doing these things in like a cup, people weren't missing their games. And now people are just living in their home doing these online tournaments, and they're like, oh man, you changed the time. How can you find me? But like they get to stay at home all the time now. Like an extra little requirement of responsibility shouldn't be like something outrageous. You know, it's like these are online tournaments. Like it sucks that the time is variable, but that's your job now. Like you don't have to travel halfway across the world, you know?
Yeah, and that was actually a... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, someone mentioned, like, why do they have to start back to back? And I think just on, like, a production back end, there's probably a lot that goes in that we don't really see to make these broadcasts happen. And there are people that have to, like, man those things. So I think that's just why they do it the way they do, because it's just less moving pieces on that end. All yours, Warshack.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I've heard Tice talk about this before, and people would ask, hey, why don't you go to, like, more events, play in more tournaments? And he's like, well, you know, I gotta fly out there. I have to find a hotel. I'm out there for a couple days, and that needs to be worth my time more than me just staying home streaming. So he'd actually opt out of some events just because of the travel implications of missing out on normal streaming time. And now with these events being at home, it allows them to not have to deal with those travel implications, and they can have more time streaming and only have to be ready for the tournaments at that bracketed time. So I don't know. I feel like, if anything, for the tournament players who do also stream, like this is definitely, like, I know Firebat does stream, and it probably, you know, it's much better not having to travel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like profit.
I think I know the reason why he was fined $1,000. It's because he removed me from his friends list like 4 years ago.
Oh man! And D-Money called his uncle who works for Blizzard and was like, "Yo, uncle, this Firebat guy. Go find him."
Yeah, I don't see him on my friends list here.
It's been really mature of you to not, like, you know, hold a grudge against that or bring it up repetitively.
Has no effect. Not mad. Not disappointed.
I'm over it.
Yeah, totally. Well, we do have our next segment here. We're about an hour and 5 in. We are going to be talking shortly about DOS nerfs.
Yeah, I think we're going to drop the Q&A today. We're just going to go into the nerfs, and then I'm probably going to call it. We don't want to go too over the time limit here. But yeah, we could discuss these nerfs. These are the nerfs that came to the game. 2 changes here. Kalthos, his effect going to 1 mana, making the next card you cast after 3 spells, or 2 spells, cost 1 instead of 0, and then we have a Lucia increasing mana cost by 1 there. A lot of people said these were subtle changes, but I definitely misplayed right away after they went live. So I noticed them quite a bit. But how have you guys noticed these changes throughout? Do you think these were enough?
It's hard to tell because the meta was still evolving when they did these nerfs. So, you know, like, we didn't know how good Priest was, how good Druid was, what the optimized build of this and that was. So, like, realizing the nerfs is kind of hard for me.
Yeah, in a similar vein, I guess, like, I'm still seeing Kalthus. I feel like the Kalthus nerf was surprisingly less impactful than I thought it was going to be. I feel like now it's just like you only play Kalthus and Druid because they have, like, you know, Innervate, Lightning Bloom. They could take they're not as hurt by the nerf as much, but Mind Render, I feel like Priest is still running it. I just haven't had one played against me since the nerf, and I'm cool with it. I'll take it. You know, I think they're still running it though.
They are.
Yeah.
Oh,
the Sun.
Oh man.
The Sunstrider, like, most cards don't, like, see a nerf and then, like, continue to get played, and then see another nerf and then also continue to see play. So the fact that this card was nerfed twice and it's still found in some druid lists is pretty impressive, given past experience with nerfs. So that's obviously like showing of like a power level of 0 mana cards, which I always think are a problem and I always bring up in every podcast and don't bother me at all. But yeah, 0 mana cards are really good, chat. So Sunstrider seeing a nerf is nice. And then Mind Reader, I think the implications of her being nerfed down to 3 instead of on 2 is to kind of like, she's supposed to be a hedge and maybe the control / OTK matchups, not necessarily like the hyper aggro matchups. And what you were seeing when players had like a good idea of how to play her correctly, you'd see her, if your opponent holds the coin, you'd see her come down on 2, and then they would play the coin and then maybe a 1 or a 2 drop, and it would totally blow out the more aggro decks like next couple turns because they utilize that coin to use their combo mechanics and to tempo out minions. So like having her not be kind of like, she's too good in the early game, like messing up what your opponent's going to do against the aggro decks. So solid nerfs.
Yeah, I think these cards, I think they're still very strong, but they definitely needed to be toned down a little bit. And I think that's what this nerf did. I know like Lucia being 3, it's still so good, but it does just allow you just don't have 1 more mana. Like even if you're like Warshack said, like the early game, yes, but also even in the late game, it makes you think a lot more about like when it's really worth it. Like you're not able to play as many cards. Like that 1 mana does just make a difference, and also it delays you instead of like turn 9 being able to drop Elucia and then play your opponent's Galakron. Now you have to wait an extra turn, and that's actually a big difference. So I like that change a lot. I still think it's good, and it is like the only disruptor for like Turtle Mage as well, which is cool. And I think Kael'thas is still very strong. It's just a bit weaker, and it might delay your opponent a turn, but sometimes 1 turn is all you need to like really make a difference in a deck.
One thing we talked about yesterday on the Kael'thas note, and some really great points there, absolutely, as well, D-Money. That's interesting to think about the Galakron perspective, as I hadn't really thought about that before.
Yeah.
One thing we were talking about when we were watching some GM games yesterday, Warshack and I, was that the Kael'thas Druid deck with survival of the fittest in it actually still has some of the better statistics supporting that it's better than the Mount Seller versions, even though the Kael'thas nerf went live. So the entire deck that was built around that card might still be the strongest, even though the card was nerfed pretty heavily right here by no longer giving 0 mana cards. It's kind of crazy.
Very.
I mean, that's mana cheating, man.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool.
I think we all thought that we were just going to see an immediate shift back to like the Guardian Animals package with the Mount Sellers, and then maybe like a Savage Roar on the finishing end of things like that, because that seemed like it was like, you know, the good Druid deck with the Spell Druid package from before. It kind of made sense. But evidently, you know, running the Guardian Animals with this and the Survival of the Fittest in the thing as well can do some really nasty stuff, especially if you throw in any Sarah still.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm seeing more of the exotic Mount Seller version, but you know, Kael'thas is still there, and you still have to be mindful of him. So I guess we'll see over the next like month, couple weeks, whatever, which one's better.
I think
I personally
better.
Which one?
The Mount Seller. Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of the Mount Seller version in tournament, but in on ladder, I feel like I see a lot more of the Malagos version.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The Malagos version's so nasty too. That deck is so flexible. It can do like a million different things.
Yeah, because even if your Malagos dies, you could still just win the game because you have big stuff as well. So there's multiple win conditions, and Malagos is super strong, especially when you get it for 1 mana from Geppetto, or if you get it down when you have Omu out there, and then you create some kind of insane combo there. So
for sure.
Yeah. But it is cool that there's multiple archetypes and everything for that, for Druid. Are they fun to play against? No, but it's cool. It's the same thing with Rogue. I mean, yeah. But I think that's all we got here.
I don't think playing against Rogue is really fun at all. Playing against Rogue, Druid is super fun at all with any of these archetypes, you know.
Sometimes when we say things by accident, like when you like are texting and you misspell something or like it autocorrects.
That wasn't a Freudian slip. That was not what that was.
Sometimes you actually like that's actually what you believe in. So
I played a lot of Soul Demon Hunter, and Rogue is like a really, really tasty matchup for that deck because you you just wreck them. So the more people that I'm fine with it. I just prey on that with what I usually play lately. So
all right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up for the Metabreakers Podcast, episode number 23. Maybe you're saying to yourself, maybe you're saying to yourself in chat, like, wow, this is episode 23. Like, there's 22 other episodes. Like, where can I find these? Like, can I actually like watch through all of these? Like, I have today. Like, I don't have anything planned today. Like, I want to just like watch some high quality banter, and yes, you can. It's on our YouTube channel. We have the Metabreakers Podcast on YouTube. Totally check it out if you want to see any of the past episodes. We do typically the things that we talk about on the podcast tend to come true a lot of the time.
It's true.
Sometimes we talk about cards that should be nerfed and how they should be nerfed, and then next week they're nerfed.
Voila!
So, you never know.
Sometimes it's hard for us to cover new things that happen because we've predicted them and talked about them super in detail like 2 weeks before. And then the thing happens and we're like, do we really want to talk about this change? Because we spent that whole podcast 2 weeks ago talking about it and now it's real. Yeah. So thanks for being on here, Superior David. It was a pleasure to have you. We have Superior David's Twitch in chat right here. If you guys want to give him a follow and check him out, he has a very, very entertaining stream. But thanks for having me on, Warshack.
Thanks for having me on too. It was a pleasure, guys, and thanks again, Superior David, for being a part of podcast number 23. Always.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure and an honor, gentlemen, and ready to watch that backlog of the Metabreakers podcast over on YouTube.
Good idea. Yeah, you guys should totally check out Superior David. He is not only in the very top percentage of Hearthstone players, he's probably top 100 right now. You could just assume he is. And then also he does some... Yeah, whatever. It's somewhere around there. And you could also expect some high quality entertainment. He always just has a good time. He tells a lot of jokes. He also does impressions of his Jewish mother, and it's a good time. So you're gonna want to be there.
It's true.
But it was fun. Thank you for being here, man. Thank you for having me, Warshack. It was a blast. I hope. I come
thanks
back
for having me. Thanks for having me, D-Money. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Yeah.
All right.
See you guys.
I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Have a good day of Hearthstone, and have a good rest of your weekend.
Peace.
Later.